What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more content for you guys. A different piece of content. We're going to ask you to ask us anything today, and we will be bringing it up with the panel. And we've got the Irish Hotspur boys in the studio, Jack Konecki and David Harris. How are we doing, people?
Ready to be put to the test, ready to be put on the grill, Dave, right?
Yeah, look, get them questions in. You know, it's only a one time only, myself and Jack are here, one time a year. So get them in for us. Thanks for having us, Benji.
Welcome back. You're here to see the mighty Spurs face AC Milan. I mean, you confident for the game, guys?
It feels like always confident because I'm a delusional Spurs fan. It's in my blood. But we are going into this one probably less than confident I was a week ago. I think like last week I was kind of flying high, thinking that Spurs were sort of turning things around. We were post-Chelsea win, kind of thinking that this team was starting to get some momentum, starting to also kind of collab and as well as have some chemistry, and all that has been undone with 2 defeats against Sheffield and Wolves. I feel like I'm back at ground zero, but I would say that game that we had against AC Milan, we weren't exactly in the best form in that part as well. Like, I feel like wasn't that post as well, like some pretty bad defeats there in that case. So if you were to maybe be confident, I might give you some confidence in the fact that it feels like these sort of games Spurs can just show up in without any sort of form or anything going into it necessary. Sometimes it's just one evening, one night. It's the Champions League. It's Wednesday night. It's something that we get to play in, something the likes of the Gooners certainly don't. And it's time for us to take advantage of it, even if we aren't one of the best teams in the competition, even if we aren't a team in good form. As long as we show up on that night, we can have still a really good evening, honestly.
Dave, how you feeling?
Look, I was coming over there today on the plane, and I was like, maybe, look, it's a bit of a waste of time losing to Wolves, losing to Sheffield United. But at the end of the day, when Tottenham's backs are up against the wall, when everything's going against them, that's when the mighty Tottenham Hotspur come out swinging. Mighty European night, maybe the loss to Wolves, Sheffield United was a blessing in disguise, and it might actually get their acting gear for this game. And I believe in the magic in Europe. Anything can happen in Europe. We've had a lot of our forward players out of form. They're bound to score eventually. Why can't it be Wednesday night?
Yeah, and it's always a bit special under the lights at Tottenham as well. All white kit. It's going to be a sight to behold, and I think the fans are going to be up for it as well. But what were you going to say, Jacko?
I was just going to say a quick question on the fact that Dave, I remember I did the watch along with him for the AC Milan game. We sort of had different reactions to it. Maybe because I knew I was going to be going to my first ever Champions League game, so I was just like, wow, we're still in this, thank God, because I thought it could have been ruined, just in that one away trip. But it felt like the fact that we were only 1-0 down made it still like it's anyone's game. All you need to do is just get any goal at any stage in 90 minutes, and you're back in it, and you're at home. You have the home crowd behind you. I was actually not totally pleased with the result or totally pleased with the performance, but I didn't think we played as bad as maybe some thought. Not saying David was saying that we played all that bad. He just sort of felt like maybe there were some missed moments on the pitch also as well, like AC Milan. I think you were there. They gave us plenty of the ball. They sort of just said, come at us and see what you can do. And it sort of led back to, do Spurs really create chances when they come up against teams like that? Maybe they don't. But still, I kind of left that stadium, or not, I didn't leave that stadium, you left that stadium, and how did you feel? Like, were you feeling like optimistic? Were you feeling a little let down?
I came into it when we were speaking before the game. I was saying to everyone, I'll take a 1-0 loss in this game.
Exactly.
Still in the tie.
That's what I would have said.
Going back to Tottenham at only 1-0, I think would be a good result for us. But seeing how the game went, I left the stadium feeling a bit dejected because I felt like we could have got more out of that game. And I thought for the most part we were the team on top, albeit we'd let AC Milan have quite a number of chances right at the end where the game could have been out of sight, to be honest. So on one hand of it, I was looking at my feelings before the game saying I would take a 1-0 defeat, so I wasn't too disheartened. But then on the other hand, the way the first 60, 70 minutes went, I felt like we could have got a lot more out of that game.
Look, for me, I was actually angry coming out of the game. I thought it was a huge opportunity missed. I think, the players we were looking to step up didn't step up, and the players we feared wouldn't step up, and Skip and Sarr stepped up. And it's like, I also think it's one of the easiest European games Tottenham will get in years gone by and years to continue. I thought it was a huge missed opportunity to be able to snatch a win there and bring it back to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I was left angry. I was left angry by how little we created. I thought we were a bit sloppy on the ball. But look, we've got to turn it around. And at the end of the day, these players owe us. They owe fans like you, Ben, and everyone else who travelled out to the San Siro, and they owe fans like me and Jack and all the other fans that are travelling this Wednesday, and every Spurs fan out there worldwide, they owe. Every fan wanted the FA Cup. Every fan wants top four. They've let us down the last week. Show us what you're made of.
First question then. We covered it a bit on the show we just did on your channel, but it is from Conj108, and he says, what are your stands on Conte? Are you Conte in or Conte out? We'll start with you, Jack. What are you feeling?
Still to this day, I'm stubbornly Conte in. I can explain it in a variety of ways, but I will certainly accept the fact that, believe me, there are plenty of valid criticisms. There are plenty of valid sort of reasons to not be as happy with Antonio Conte right now at this moment in time. Just the way I stand with it is that I have seen, at least in my personal opinion, especially in my young lifetime as a Spurs fan, it feels like I've seen too many managers feel like getting kind of the burden or being kind of blamed for what really is more the problems of the ownership, as well as the problems just simply of the players that are on the pitch, just letting him down, downing tools like we discussed previously, and also maybe like you had brought up earlier, reverting back to type like a lot of these guys have. And it feels like I'm just kind of getting sick and tired of these sort of players continuing to do that, and then the managers sort of take the fall for it. And so I'm just at this sort of like, whether you call it stubborn, whether you call it like just sort of, like just a bit naive or whatever, I just want to see those players go before I see the next manager go. Like I need to see the manager and those players go this summer at the same time, or I need to see those players go first. It's hard for me to watch another manager get blamed as well as receive, the punishment for what I truly believe is more the reflection of the mistakes of the owners as well as the mistake of the players. And it feels like the manager continues to receive, the burden of that. I'm just getting a bit sick of it. I'm just kind of tired of sort of like defending, maybe the criticisms of a manager. I accept the criticisms of Conte. I see him as a very proven manager. I see him as a very successful manager before he even came into Tottenham Hotspur. It just seems hard to believe that yet again we've hired another manager that was actually seemingly quite good before he came to the club. Then all of a sudden, we leave it and we're questioning everything about him, questioning whether he even is a good manager in the first place. And it just seems like we're repeating too many mistakes of the past. And that's where I just stand on it. I'm a bit stubborn. I'm a bit ignorant. I just have to see certain people go before I see another manager go. And whether that's, even sticking with this type of ugly kind of conservative football, I'm willing to do it.
Let me ask you a follow-up question to that, because obviously it's all up in the air about Antonio Conte's future. If he himself hasn't made a decision, let's say for argument's sake that the club have offered him a contract and he still hasn't made that decision, doesn't know if he wants to be here next year, should we cut our losses right now or still wait until the end of the season?
I think you should still wait till the end of the season, but this is again where I do feel like Conte is he's haunting himself, or he's hurting himself, because while I believe he probably has been given some sort of contract extension or given some type of offer, it wasn't acceptable to him. And we know him to be also himself a guy that will only take what he wants. He's not going to sort of, bend too much for you. He doesn't need to. He's never been that type of guy. He's not going to bend his own principles, bend his own stance on anything in order to satisfy all parties. In fact, I would say I'm more that type of guy to just sort of bend over a little bit to satisfy one side of the room and then help the other side of the room. Conte has never been that type of guy. He's going to be a guy that stands for what he stands for, and if he's not getting it, he's not going to budge and he's not going to concede. And you might admire that. You might also find that to be really frustrating, because that has led us to the situation we are in, where the players don't know who's going to be the manager at the end of the season. Pretty much the fans don't know either, and we are in this sort of limbo period. And I will admit that is sort of more to do with Conte than it is actually, I think, to do with the ownership, because they did give him probably, at least I hope, they gave him an offer of some kind. He just didn't accept it, and it is up to him then to maybe then now prove that he can still get good results to earn the job. And this is where I think he did have a bit of a risk, where it's like, if you're going to deny that job opportunity or that extension, you are still going to live and die by your results. And at the moment, the results are not going his way. So I don't know. I think you stick with him no matter what, and that has to do with the fact that I just feel like certain players need to go before him, but he is hurting himself, like we discussed earlier, with not signing that contract.
Dave, what are you feeling?
Look, I'm Conte in. I think when I weigh it up and I look at maybe what people deem as a Conte issue and what I deem as issues before Conte arrived here, I think it's clear to me that the issues that were here before Conte arrived here is what's holding this club back, and it's held every manager we've had back, and it's that back line. It's also the decline of Hugo Lloris, which, when he signed that contract, we were told within the length of that contract we were going to get in his replacement and Hugo was going to work with him, and it never happened. It never happened. So Conte has been failed by them not improving the back line good enough and not having that number one in. And when you look at the mistakes that just Eric Dyer and Hugo Lloris have made alone, the amount of errors, I think they've made the most in the Premier League. It's costly. When you look at the goals we concede, we've conceded some of the most in the Premier League. We'd be down there in the relegation scrap if we didn't have Harry Kane up front this season. And although the goals have dried up recently, we still score quite a lot of goals. I get that some people are frustrated with the football. I get some people are frustrated with the tactics. But I genuinely believe that it'll improve once you have a keeper that's more in the modern day of football that can distribute from the back line. When you've got a back line who are also good on the football but can also defend. And not players like... We've got players there at the minute, like a Davies, like a Dyer, who... Dyer was converted from a CDM. He played CDM for a large part of his career at Tottenham. You got Davies moved in from a left-back to left-sided centre-back. And I sort of question how much do they love that defending in the central areas, because you've got to love it. You've got to be sicko. You've got to enjoy getting the ball in the nuts. You've got to enjoy getting the wet ball in the face. When the pain comes, it's got to give you like a hard-on. You've really got to sort of enjoy it.
Basically, don't turn your bloody back.
Just don't turn your back. Just do the simple things, You're getting paid $200K a week. If you get winded, big whoop. But for me, I think there are issues that predate Conte, and I do think we'd look a lot better if we sorted them issues out. And I think it'd help Conte's system as well, because Conte wants to build up from the back. He wants to be able to play through the lines, but the quality is just not there, and it's hindering us.
If you were to play devil's advocate, it's almost like, though, if Conte gets these defenders that we are speaking about, if also these certain players that we know that have stuck around too long are shipped out, it feels like you can criticize Conte with a much finer calm. Like you'd be much more, at least in my opinion, I think any criticism of Conte, I would take far more seriously and I do take every criticism of Conte seriously. What I'm trying to say is I just feel like the priorities of getting Conte out are not on the highest of my priority list at the moment. And it feels like, though, if he did have better defenders to choose from, if he did have a reliable goalkeeper to have this season, you would be much more inclined, I think, to then grind him, a bit more, kind of grill him a bit more.
I get that Conte isn't up there on the priority list of people that we want to get out of this club first. But the fact of the matter is that cloud is hovering over above us because he won't sign that contract. So it's a situation that we have to talk about and have to act on seriously, right? Yeah. So if Conte doesn't want to be here, then what do you do? Do you just, you say you wait till the end of the season and judge it then and let him go at the end of the season. But is it doing the club any good keeping him here if he doesn't want to be here?
Is this limbo period doing us any good? No, it isn't. I don't think it is. And so that's why I'm not even the most confident, I'll be honest, in the answer of sticking with him. But it's just, like I said, I'll stick with my stubbornness and I'll stick with my sort of feeling that I do need to see a certain backline and plenty of members of these backline go before Antonio Conte. And whether that's even possible or realistic, I'm not sure, but that's just how I see it. That's a good point, though, because sticking in limbo right now is probably causing us the problems that we're in.
I'm a bit different to Jack on this. I think if we lose tomorrow and it's sort of like a gutless, toothless performance, I think Conte could end up facing the sack. Maybe not straight away. I think when you look at the next,
there's only a couple of months left of the season.
But the next 4 or 5 games are sort of relegation teams. Or lower league table teams. If you don't pick up a lot of maximum points in there, Liverpool will close the gap, Newcastle might end up back in a race, and then all of a sudden we're out of it. I think you will see Conte get sacked.
Yeah, I think once we're out of the top 4, that means objectives, objectives can't be met. They can't be met. So yeah, I think that could be a serious case. But I think if we're still in the hunt for top 4, they're not going to sack him, I don't think.
No. No, maybe not. I think they'll wait till what have we got coming up? Bournemouth, Forest, Everton. I think they'll wait till them games are out the way and see where we are.
Yeah, fair enough. Just a follow-up question for both of you. Just put you on the spot. Just simple yes or no. Will Conte be here next season?
No.
I don't think so, but I'm going to hope so. Deeply
Yeah,
hope
we're
so.
all hoping so, I think.
Deeply
But,
hope so.
that brings us on nicely to our next question from El Dante. He says, if not Poch, who would you choose to replace Conte? We'll start with you, Dave, on this one.
No, go to Jack off first. Go to Jack off.
This one's so hard. I'll probably lay down a few options. Pochettino's the one that we know. It's the one that we love. It's the one we're most familiar with. It's probably the one that maybe unites the most Spurs fans as well, right? Because what we probably are looking for most is just to be sort of united again as Spurs fans, because these are the moments where we get so divided, so kind of on either side of the camp. Pochettino, let's be honest, is probably that uniting sort of kind of figure.
Yeah, he is in a way, but also in the other way, there is still a section of this fan base that say, why would you employ a manager that failed at the club? But I don't buy into that narrative, because I think he's the most successful Premier League manager that we've ever had.
Can I ask you a question, Ben? Do you think he'll come back with a Dyer, with a Davies, with a Sanchez, an aging Kane, an aging Son, still there? Hugo Lloris.
What we know about Pochettino is that he can come into a squad like that and he can clear it out and fix it, because that's what he did when he first came into the club. We had the Cobbles, the Adebayors, the Aaron Lennons. You know, we had those players that were causing a big shitstorm in the squad, and he ousted them, got rid of them, and brought in new players. So I trust him to do that again for sure. But I think these players are. I know we've probably said it many a time, but I think these players are on their last legs now, and I think the club, the manager, every manager knows that comes through this door, these players need to be upgraded on. And I do think that, I know we said it last summer, but I do think the centre-backs will be a priority this summer.
I think it's got to be glaringly obvious. I think midfield, I can understand maybe if you want to bring in a Cam or an attacking or someone with a bit more of a passing range, I can understand that, but it's not necessarily priority right now. Another player in the forward area I wouldn't say is necessarily priority right now, because I believe Richarlison and that will come good next season, even though it's not when we wanted. So for me, I think when you look at the business we done last summer, it's definitely got to be centre-backs, and it's got to be a new number one this summer. It has to be.
The two other options I would promote would be something a bit outside the box. I would definitely take a look at that guy that we were linked with maybe before. I can't even say I'm exactly an expert on him, but plenty of people love him, is that Marcelo Gallardo guy, the River Plate manager. If you were to go for
Danny
somebody...
Kyriakou really wants him. Yeah.
I can't say like I know too much about him, but what I would say is that if we were to go for like a future Poch or like, you know, the next Poch, that could be maybe the guy if you were to go for the sort of outside the box, you know, completely new to, you know, everything type situation. The issue I have with that though is like the guy doesn't exactly have Premier League experience. He is walking into also a huge club where he is not going to have sort of the, I get it, River Plate also a massive club, but Premier League is very different, let's be honest. So he will have to walk into a different pressure, different situation that maybe I'm not sure if he's fully prepared for. Not everybody's fully prepared for it, and you do just have to see how it goes, but I'd be worried about that. The other manager I'd actually take a look at is pretty much any of the, I think those Bundesliga sort of, you know, progressive up and coming managers, because Spurs fans, they like the progressive front foot on, you know, attacking, you know, aesthetically pleasing sort of sort
like
of style. Glasner, I think there's that guy at Salzburg, Matthias Eisler, I actually really like a lot. I think most of probably the Bundesliga has some sort of manager that's up and coming at the moment that you could take a that probably...
Take anyone out of the Red Bull network, right?
Yeah, exactly. Any former Red Bull, I think, graduate, absolutely.
Even Jesse Marsh?
Well, let's say, I would say Jesse, you know, definitely has probably, you know, made the Yanks look good as well as bad at the same time.
Take Bielsa.
Would I take Bielsa? I think no. I think, again, he's somebody that's probably not right for the club of our size. I think everything he does, everything he promotes, everything he stands for, I'm also totally for and totally, you know, in support of. But there's that thing where it's like, does he get that sort of control over a club like ours? I really doubt it. Does he get that sort of say like he did at Leeds? I really doubt it. And then also, when the results start dipping and we start losing games 6-1, like he was, will Spurs fans stick around? And will Spurs fans also, let's be honest, will we actually say, oh, we're happy with this aesthetic football losing 6-1? I really doubt that we will. I think we'll start to say, I'm tired of losing 6-1. I'm tired of losing, you know, 4-2 and things like that. So for me, I'd go some sort of guy out of the Bundesliga, maybe like Matthias Eisler out of Salzburg, or I'd go Marcelo Gallardo, completely outside the box, you know, sort of situation, or go back to Pochettino.
What about De Zerbi?
It just was hard at Brighton, so it just seems hard to believe. And he seems like he'd be a bit of a hypocrite for calling out Caicedo and all those guys for leaving so soon, and then he were to do the same thing. That would be a bit hypocritical.
I've said this before, making a leap from somewhere like Brighton to a big club, it's look, maybe Tottenham it might work out because it's not United, it's not City. and I think, you know, he might have more of a chance. I think if he was to go to one of the bigger clubs who spend a lot more money than us, I don't think it'll work out. I think that step is too big. I think you've got to walk into them dressing rooms with trophies on your CVs, or the players don't respect you. Like, you look at Potter, who went to Chelsea, they just no respect for him. You know, it's out there in the media. Everybody knows about it. They just don't respect him. For me, when I look at the way that Tottenham have done, and I don't want them to keep switching it up, ripping things up, changing the way they do things, bringing in the next manager, different philosophy, different way of playing, different formation. I think with what they've done so far in terms of under Paratici, I think they've got to keep building that way. So you've got to bring in another manager who plays the same sort of formation with the 5 across the back, in my opinion. Because you've got a lot of wing backs there. You've got Adoji coming in, you've got Perisic, you've got Porro, and you've got Emerson on the right. So for me, I would look at someone like Thomas Tuchel. I think for me, he would be the next progression plan if they were to sack Conte, or Conte didn't want to take over.
Can Spurs do 3 former Chelsea managers in a row?
Oh, mate. Look, as much as I rate Thomas Tuchel as a manager, I just can't see him getting on with the board, and I think it will go well for like 6 months to a year and then ultimately fall apart, in my opinion. I like the idea of Gallardo. I really do, and there was a story about him last year at River Plate, where I think like his team went down to 9 or 10 men. He had to put his striker in goal or something and won the game.
Some people would like to see those positive impacts.
It's a big ask, though, asking him to adapt to the Premier League.
It is a big ask. It is a big ask.
I'd sooner see him. And also, if I'm be honest, if I even were Marcelo Gallardo, I don't even know if I would take the Spurs job. I think that's a huge jump. I'd sooner go to like a Sevilla or go to like a Athletic Bilbao or something like that, sort of ease your way into it. It seems like a huge jump for him. So I don't know.
Is there any more from that Guardiola school of thought? They seem to be,
what about Luis
seem to be doing well lately.
Well, people brought up Company as well. Like
Company. I mean, the young managers they're talking about is like Company, Carrick, dare I say it, Ryan Mason, and but Luis Enrique surely has to be high up the list.
I was a little bit confused by Luis Enrique because I think he has a very aesthetically pleasing bit of football, but when you did see Spain in that World Cup, like they did fall victim to the same problems that I think Spain always fall victim to, which is just being a bit too tidy on the ball and not actually doing very much with it, like not actually penetrating very much, not actually really creating any clear-cut chances. Like you look at how Morocco played them, like let's be honest, like they really didn't create much of anything actually, Spain against Morocco. And I know Morocco played a very defensive brand of football,
Not many
but that's
teams did create much against Morocco in this World Cup though.
exactly right. And it does seem, though, that a team like Spain would have the resources to do it and would have the players to do it. And I thought maybe had the manager to do it, but I guess they didn't. So I also feel like, too, maybe when they came up against Germany, I watched that game. It was a bit of kind of a stalemate when it came to, I think, the 2 tactics as well. So Luis Enrique, don't get me wrong, great manager. But I would say if I watch back his games at the World Cup, I think he benefited more from just his schedule than he did from actually his play. Because it felt like maybe had he played Japan first, maybe he would have lost that game. Then all of a sudden, maybe Germany get through and get knocked out later, sort of thing.
It's interesting because Messi actually said, apart from Pep Guardiola, Luis Enrique is the best manager he's ever worked for. And
I think he was a part of the Messi, Neymar, Suarez era, right? Luis Enrique.
Yeah. I think he came in like a couple of managers after Guardiola, I think, at Barcelona. But I think with the Spain team in the World Cup, I really don't think the attacking quality was there, as you see in previous Spanish squads. And I think that he did really well with the squad that he did have, considering it wasn't the greatest Spanish team in the world, let's say that.
Probably.
Let me ask you this then, guys, on the managers. Look, I want Conte to stay, but for whatever reason, if he's not here next season, do we need to keep bringing in managers of that elite level to keep the likes of Kane and Son and that here? Or are Spurs fans prepared to sort of just rip up the school book or rip up the rule book and sort of just start fresh and give someone like maybe a Vincent Kompany he's doing a good job up there and he's got them playing good football. Someone like him a chance, or someone of that ilk. Someone that maybe, it might take a little bit longer, but they want to play exciting way. They're sort of that new breed of manager. Where are you at with that?
Not for me. I think I think we're past that as a football club now. We're a Champions League team, more or less year in, year out, barring a couple of previous years. I think that if you're going to go down that route, Pochettino's the perfect man to go down that route with, in my opinion. And I think he knows the club. He absolutely loves the club. He knows the frailties with some of the players in this squad. Yeah. So I think Pochettino is literally the perfect man to succeed Conte. And not only that, but he's equally comfortable going to the back three, going to the back four.
That's true too.
So I'm Poch after Conte 100%.
Do you think he would unite the fan base, and is that also an important thing to look at as well? Like,
I think whether you think he failed at Spurs or not, you can't not love Pochettino as a Spurs fan. Yeah. Whatever you think of him. So I think that he'll gain that respect first and foremost. But he'll need to convince a few fans in terms of if he's able to win or not.
I'll be honest though, I don't think Spurs fans are calling him back for their love of him. I think Spurs fans want him back because although we didn't win anything, we were constantly challenging. Can he make that happen again?
I think he can. And I think the club are in a much different space than when he left. You got to remember, when he left, he had one transfer window where he signed the likes of Ndombele, Lo Celso, Ryan Sessegnon. Before that, he didn't spend money for, 2 years? Best part of 2 years. So the club are in a very different space to when Pochettino left. Now we're spending close to 100 million pretty much every transfer window. We're bringing in quality players with the likes of Porro, Kulusevski, Bentancur, Romero. So I think that it can 100% work with Pochettino here. What are you guys feeling?
I feel like if the part that sort of makes me feel like he makes a lot of sense is just the fact that Spurs are familiar with him. He's not going to be a guy that maybe a lot of people are going to pull the Danny Rose, like, do I have to Google this guy, sort of situation. I do feel like some of the names I suggested, Gallardo, as well as, any of the German Bundesliga sort of kind of graduates or RB Salzburg sort of graduates, they will be kind of like, who's that guy again? Like, do I need to Google him sort of situation? And I feel like that will lead Spurs fans likely into thinking, like, is this going from, like, Jose to Nuno? Is this going from, a huge drop-off in quality as well as, resume of manager to something that's just not really of that quality? And I feel like maybe just transitioning to a Pochettino, nowhere near the same resume as Jose or the likes of Conte, but someone that Spurs fans are at least familiar with, somebody that we don't have to ask maybe too many questions about in the beginning, don't even exactly have to do big videos on, like, who is this guy, sort of situation either. And maybe that could actually, weirdly enough, and it seems strange to do this, but it could be a good factor to consider. Like, Spurs fans do maybe just need to be all on the same page again, just need to be kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, kind of uniting, not being as divided. And could that be done via a manager? And perhaps it could be through Poch, but it seems, again, like, do I want to put Poch in that sort of, like, esteemed, list where he's going to save us from, killing each other? That seems also like a bit,
He's magic, don't you know?
Look, where I'm at with it, I think, he understands Tottenham. I think he understands what Tottenham fans want to see. I think he understands playing the Tottenham way. But look, ultimately for me, I think it's a bit like, you're out in a nightclub, you see your ex, gives you a bit of a twinge. You're like, yeah, it's happening. You do the deed, and then you're ultimately left depressed after. You're like, why did I do that? It's just, it's not as good the second time round. For me, I don't think it'll work the second time round.
Why not, though?
I just don't.
When you're looking at the players coming in, I mean, they're all, Perisic aside and the lone players aside, I mean, they're all ripe for a Poch system, aren't they? Pedro Porro, Destiny Adoji, Yves Bentancur, not Yves Bissouma, Rodrigo Bentancur. They're all ripe for a Pochettino system, aren't they? Dejan Kulusevski, I think since he's come back from injury, he's had the most pressures in the Premier League. Wow.
Yeah, look, I hear you. I do think we've got players that maybe he could make better. I just question how long it'll last for. I question how long the backing will last for. I think they'll look to play their old tricks with him again, where it's kind of like, well, if we don't want to spend money, we'll go and get the cheaper option, or we'll withhold a bit of money. I don't think he'll get the full backing. I think he'll come back into him, because he said it before he left. He's not a manager. He's a coach, head coach.
But if that's what you're saying is true, which it very well could be, then no manager's going to work here.
Well, no, maybe the reason why you stick then with those Contes is because they're not as much of yes men as probably Pochettino could be. And a lot of people who do want the ownership to be challenged, a lot of people who want the ownership to feel uncomfortable, right, by it's the best way for the ownership to feel uncomfortable is not only through the fans, but also through the manager that's in charge by calling them out in the press conferences and things like that. And often they have to toe the line with that, where you can't call them out too much because then you get the sack and whatnot. But it feels like Pochettino wouldn't be able to toe that line. He'd probably toe the party line a bit more and just kind of, be a bit more of a yes man than maybe the next manager.
Yeah, I hear this a lot about Poch being a yes man, this and that, but he was the one that came out in the press conferences and says, what's the point of having this big shiny new house if you can't put furniture in? He said it quite a number of times.
And there's the video of him talking about Spurs when they buy, a center back, or when Spurs need a washing machine, they buy a dryer instead.
Exactly. He said that multiple times, right? So
is he a yes man?
But then problems are still here down them.
Yeah, I get that. And, Jose Mourinho has been here. He's not the idea of a yes man. He's said stuff in the press. Antonio Conte's been here now. He's come out and said stuff in the press. So, I mean, we've had these managers through the door. Nothing's really seemed to have changed.
Fair point. Look, if Poch comes back, I'll get behind him. I'll get behind any manager that walks in this door. I'll always give them a fair chance. And in fact, I probably will give them a lot more of a chance than most others, because until certain things are done with this squad, I don't believe it's fair to pinpoint absolutely everything on a manager. So I'll get behind Poch. I'll just have my reservations. I don't remember anybody really going back to a football club and it being better the second time round, players or management.
David Moyes?
No.
Zidane? Well, Moyes did, yeah.
Yeah, well, look at them this season.
Yeah.
They're back to where they were.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. The next question is from LLS Vlogs, and I know you're going to have some fun with this one, David. Is what players would you sell? So I'm going to get the whole squad up, and we're going to go keep or sell with all of them.
Okay.
All
right.
Fun.
So we're going to start off with Hugo Lloris.
Sell.
See, I differ to you. I would keep him as a backup because I don't think you'd get a better backup than him, and I think I'd prefer to see him as backup than Fraser Forster, Brandon Austin, or Alfie Whiteman.
I'll be honest with you, I'm at the point I think there needs to be accountability around here with some of these players and some of the performances he's put in this season, some of the mistakes he's made. Unforgivable, especially from a captain. For me, I think we've got to recognise at this football club when a player's done. I think he's done. If you want to keep him around, offer him a coaching job, but I wouldn't keep him on the playing roster.
I was upset with when he excused some of those mistakes that he had made and tried to come up with some sort of explanation for it, because then only weeks later we saw Sonny, given a similar sort of interview, and he was taking more accountability than Lloris ever did. And so that's what confuses me. It's like Lloris had fewer excuses, I think, than Sonny did, and yet Sonny was more happy to be like, you know what, it's on me, I should be doing better. And that found, to be pretty impressive from Son, whereas Lloris was not doing the same thing. Lloris was like, I watched them back, I did nothing wrong, it's like, that's not a captain.
On the flip side of that, though, in the Amazon documentaries and stuff like that, we saw leadership qualities in there from Hugo, didn't we? We saw him holding players to account. We saw him give him team talks and stuff. I think he does have leadership qualities about him, and I think the rest of the squad do look up to him, and I think keeping him around as a backup will still be good for the squad.
I don't want to get down in the Hugo trap, because I think Dave knows I've been a Hugo conspiracy theories and things like that, so I don't want to get too far down it. But I think he probably has to go. I do see the logic, though, that he has that experience and he's been around Spurs a long time.
At the end of the day, 1 year left in his contract. Let him see out his contract as a backup for his last season. I don't see a problem with that.
We're just harsh.
I see a problem. I don't want him. Look, thank you for the service. I don't want to sound rude or harsh. Thank you for the service. It's been an incredible service, but I think we just got to realise when things are over, we held on to Winks too long, held on to Ali too long, held on to Sissoko too long. I think we just got to realise when things are over.
All right, Ollie Skip. Obviously, that's a keep.
Keep.
Pierre the Viking.
Oh, yeah, keep. 100%.
Yeah, he's got to be keep. Davinson Sanchez.
This guy makes me embarrassed to wear the jersey. He cannot stay on his feet. He cannot pass a ball. He cannot deal with balls over his head. I think he's absolutely atrocious. I think he's an embarrassment to this football club. And if you can't sell him this summer, and if he doesn't want to go, rip up his contract, make an example of him.
Sell, Van der, any of the languages.
Yeah, is he the first centre-back out the door for you?
Yeah. I actually would say yes, just because he can't even start ahead of Tanganga. Like, he's struggling to even get ahead of Tanganga, and I'm not even convinced by Tanganga at all. And sadly, it's the case. I don't rate Dyer either, but Dyer is a better defender than Sanchez, and that's not saying much, but he is a better defender than Sanchez, so Sanchez does have to go first.
So disappointed you said that.
He can't be a backup. he's proven he can't be a backup after being out for multiple weeks. He has all the time in the world just to prepare for one game mentally, and he can't do it. And also, as well, he was given an opportunity this January to leave, and then complains about having a bit part role afterwards.
How embarrassing was it the other week he was captain of the team?
Well, apparently he's called El Patron, so I don't know.
But you wonder why he doesn't want to leave, though, right? he refuses to leave to go to League in January purely because the money out there is going to be less than what he's on at Tottenham. We reward him by giving him the captain's armband. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I got to agree with both of you. I think first defender out the door has to be.
I actually think
Davinson
Dyer's
Sanchez.
got to be first out the door.
Really?
I think for me, he keeps worming his way into the team, even though he doesn't deserve it. And I think he thinks he's better than what he is. I constantly see him blaming other people. You know, I think he's too much of an issue. He keeps worming his way in under every manager, and then the mistakes happen, the lapses of concentrations happen, the balls start going into the stands. And for some reason, he has a bit of a cult following at this club that I don't understand. I don't understand what he's done to deserve it. The only way he finds himself onto the team now is not because of football merit. It's because simply he just finds himself a little bit better than Sanchez. But also, there's rumours of a new contract. Can't have that. He's got to be first out the door ahead of Sanchez. I cannot have the new contract.
We'll get into Dyer very soon. Don't you worry about that. But I think that's all convincing
Opening
yes.
argument.
Sorry, I'm
Davinson
passionate when it comes to these guys.
Heung-min Son.
Keep. I'd be curious if you guys want to take that, road. I'd say keep. He's done us so much service. I think he's a terrific forward still. I understand he's going through a bad spell. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt of another season afterwards. He's also still signed us a new contract when we were in a bad spell under Nuno. It feels like maybe rewarding him for that sort of faith would not be a bad thing. Then again, though, that contrast with exactly what Dave just said, which is like sticking with players maybe a little bit too long. I don't think we're sticking with Sonny too long, but I'd be curious if someone might think
And before you answer, Dave, let's remember this conversation that we had not long ago when you had a go at me when I said we should have dropped Sonny. So do you want to sell him?
No. I would actually
Good,
keep him.
because neither do I.
No, look, I would keep him. Although I find him,
hiding well there.
although I find him incredibly frustrating this season, I think a lot of us has. I don't think he's been helped by us not really having any other option outside getting the ball into Harry Kane and looking for him to create.
Yep.
When it's gone into summer, asking him to hold up the ball on the halfway line. It's not his job. Sonny is good when he's running at people, when he's in and around the opposition final third. And for me, if we can get back to being a good attacking team again, scoring plenty of goals, I think Sonny will come to the fore. I just think we've tried to find a solution outside of hitting Kane all the time by using Sonny, but Son just doesn't have the strength to hold it up. So if we get him back to doing what he's best at, I think the confidence come back. I wouldn't sell him yet.
I think we need to speed up with these
Okay,
players,
okay.
but we'll go Richarlison.
Keep.
Even if we get a 60, 70 million bid this summer from Real Madrid?
Ooh, I'd say sell then, actually. I love Richie, but you take that. If you get all your money back, I think you would take it just to do it, but I'd say keep.
I'd keep him. I think he'll come good next season.
Harry Kane,
Massive keep.
even if he doesn't sign the contract?
I don't think we have an option on this. I think it all depends on him. For me, I think it's a no-brainer. You got to keep him, but it's not up to us. It's up to him.
Agreed. Emerson Royale?
Hashtag save Emerson, baby.
I keep him. Look, I've always liked him. I think he's been frustrating at times, but I've always liked him. I keep him.
Yeah, I'll keep him as well. Ivan Perisic.
Get rid of.
Yeah, I'd look to get rid of him now at this point. I think, although he's got, 8 assists, I just think he's been incredibly frustrating. I don't think he's offered enough
And his
defensively or going
assists,
forward.
I think his assists are also inflated by set pieces.
Yeah.
Agree, I 100% agree with
Yeah.
that. 100%. And I didn't get it because in the last game against Wolves, right, why was Son taking all of our set pieces, all of the corners pretty much? I mean, Perisic maybe took 2, but we had so many throughout the day.
Good point.
And I didn't get it. Like, I know Son does take a good corner from time to time, but this is literally what Perisic is in the
Yeah.
team for.
One thing he's doing well.
Yeah.
The one thing he's doing
Yeah.
well right now. That's a good point.
All right, so sell all round for Perisic. Eric Dyer.
Oh, look, I've already said my piece. For me, get him gone. Just gone. I don't want to see him on the team, on the roster next year. I'll cry if he is.
I think he's the second one to go. I'd actually get rid of him after Sanchez, and I'd sooner keep other players than him.
I'm going keep. I'm going keep.
No, surely
way.
Syntax
No,
you'd
he's
say
trolling
that to
now.
wake
No,
me
he's
up.
trolling.
No, I'm going keep.
Why?
I promise you. Why?
I know you want to move on quick, but I need to know why.
Why? Because it's not feasibly possible for us to sign 4 centre-backs this summer. So you're going to need to keep some as backup. I don't want him anywhere near the starting 11 week in, week out.
Would you rather keep Tanganga or him?
I think we might need to keep both, you know. I want to sign 2 centre-backs in the summer, 2 top-quality centre-backs for the central and the left. We've already got Romero. So we need backups.
He doesn't take up a homegrown spot though, Dyer. So that's my thing, is that if he was taking up a homegrown spot, maybe he would have more of a case to keep him, but he's not.
He
So
does
you
on one of the lists, doesn't
Maybe
he?
you're right. Maybe
He does on the Premier League list, but not on the Champions League list.
Look, I'm at the point. He's hurt me so many times. He's been a part of.
I get it.
He's been a part of these League Cup and FA Cup exits. I would actually much rather give that opportunity to someone like Alfie Dorrington, Charlie Sawyers, or someone from the academy than just give it to a guy that I know when he rolls out is going to do the same thing. I can't have it.
All right. Arnaut Danjuma, would you like to sign him for that goal against Preston? That's all we've seen pretty much.
Yeah, poor guy went to maybe one too many movies, it looks like. So, I don't know. I guess sell or, you know, don't renew.
Give back.
Yeah, give back.
Yeah, I don't think we'll take up the option.
Cuti Romero, that's a no-brainer. Ryan
Done.
Sessegnon. This is going to be an interesting one. Because it's
massive
interesting, because Ryan Sessegnon, we all said get rid of Ivan Perisic. That leaves us with Sessegnon and Udogie for next season. But is Sessegnon good enough even to be the backup?
No, bring back the regulator, Benji. Bring back the regulator. The only reason why...
I would take Reguilon over Sessegnon all day long.
The only reason why he was shipped out is homegrown quota. In my opinion, I think Sessegnon kept that because Conte had wanted Perisic so badly. Daniel, or he's basically told, okay, but then that means Reguilon has to go. We have to keep Sessegnon. But Ben, I remember you backed him this summer. I told you it wasn't going to work out. I told you it wasn't going to work out.
I
For
did
me,
back him.
He's regressed.
But he had a strong end to the season last year. He really did, and he was a key part of that team that finished in the top 4. You know, he produced for us. But this season, since the very beginning, he has been shocking. Absolutely shocking. And on top of that, the injury problems as well. So, I mean, what's the point of having him around?
He can't defend and he can't cross. That's a bad situation to be in, I think. You have to do one or the other. Emerson at one stage was doing at least defending before he was doing anything going forward. And now Sessegnon can't defend either.
Maybe we can move that Emerson song over to Sessegnon. He can't defend, he can't attack. He's our left wing back.
Big Fraser Forster. Would you prefer to have Fraser Forster as backup than Lloris?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I think he's
Why?
proven to be much better with his feet. I think Hugo has cost us multiple times with his feet this season. I think Forster has shown to be far better with his feet already. I think also as well, like I did end up going back and watching all of the mistakes Hugo has cost us. And believe me, it's a lot more than you think. Even just those 4 errors leading to goals this season, which were, again, you know, put him at the highest of the whole league. That's not just those. You can point out plenty more. So I would say, like, it will take a while before Forster. He's probably maybe on, 2 mistakes that some people might harshly criticize him for, maybe on 2 or 3 mistakes. He's going to need to make, I would say, at least 10 more. He's going to need to make
It's his
like 10
parries
more.
out, which really annoy
he
me.
has
That one against
questionable
Brentford,
parries.
that one against Wolves.
He has questionable parries. That's a good point. And AC Milan, even some people thought his first parry was poor.
Yeah.
But I would say he's going to need to make 10 more of those before he's even on Lloris's level this season.
All right. Who is up next? We've got Dejan Kulusevski. I mean, something. I know, obviously keep because he's a top quality player, but it's a bit disappointing from him this season, hasn't it?
Yeah, look, we were spoiled last year with what him and Bentancur done, coming in, hitting the ground running, helping the team the way they did. But realistically, the reason why that was allowed to happen is because the people that were replacing were just so bad. So bad. They offered nothing at all. Look, I think he's struggling to come back from that injury. I don't think he fully trusts his body yet coming back from that.
Fair enough. I mean, I can't remember what channel it was on. I don't know, it might have been yours or someone else's, but someone was making the point as that he's getting a bit found out at the moment. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah.
Yes and no. I think certain defenders have an easier time against Kulusevski because he doesn't have the pace to be able to burn them with. But at the same time, you did see, like against Wolves, I thought he was absolutely rolling that left back every single time because he has the strength and he has that ability to seal off his man after he beats him. And so maybe a more like weaker fullback, like somebody that's also not very good at defending, I think struggles against Kulusevski. A very like hard-nosed fullback, a tough fullback, does maybe a bit better against Kulusevski.
Pedro Porro. What have you made out of him? I mean, it's obviously keep. We just signed him, but what do you make out of him so far?
Best technical right back I've seen in I don't know how long at this football club. Look, I get the debut was poor, but if you take some of the moments from the Sheffield United game and the Wolves game, I think he's got a lot to offer this team.
One of the more positive players, I think, actually recently too. So I'd keep him. He has a really good long, pass. I think he's had some good moments where he's just had good technical quality. So I'd keep him.
Wound me up standing there at Molineux when they took him off, man. I didn't understand that sub whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's just like we're pushing for a goal. This guy's like most likely source of a goal. He was the one really pushing it and taking it to them.
He's clearly a
and you take him off for Emerson. I mean, I love Emerson and what he's brought over the last couple of weeks, but what he's brought is defensive solidity and making an extra man in the middle of the park.
And
that's not going to bring us a goal.
Yeah.
And if he was apparently hurt or had a knock, it didn't make much sense either.
Yeah, exactly. Japhet Tanganga.
So,
look, if you watch that Sky documentary that they done on the transfer window, it's clear he doesn't want to be here.
Yeah.
He wants game time.
He's been a victim of the homegrown rules. I think that's just the case. Like, if the homegrown rules didn't exist, I think Spurs would probably have shipped him on sooner. Not shipped him off, but, like, loaned him out sooner and all that stuff. But they have to fit those quotas and have to fit those rules. And sadly, he's...
I think we've done Tanganga a bit of a disservice in terms of his development.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like,
Do you not think his injuries have held him back? I think they've probably held him back.
I think it's both. I think it's both. I think that when you see the players that have come through the academy for Spurs, they've all had successful loan spells, every single one. Skip had it at Norwich, Kane had it, a few different clubs. Every single one that have broke into our team have had successful loan spells where they've gone and played consistent minutes, whether it be in the Championship or whatever. Even Kyle Walker at Aston Villa,
Yeah.
Danny Rose had it as well. So Tanganga hasn't had that.
No.
We've asked him just to be a backup straight away, just come in and
Make up the
play a
numbers.
bit. Exactly. We haven't aided his development whatsoever.
No, I feel bad for him, actually.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Lucas Moura, I mean, he's going anyway, but I mean, he's got to go.
I'm actually angry that he's coming off the bench or even starting ahead of players.
How is he the first player to come on?
He doesn't want to be here. He's already said he wants to go back to Brazil at the end of the season. I just don't understand why we're even giving him an opportunity.
Jack?
Yeah, so. And also, I think as well, like, Lucas has probably disappointed us in his final season. Even the Lucas Moura sexuals, are probably even a bit sort of, disappointed in him, with how it's gone in his final season. Not a good send-off.
Pape Matar, I mean, that's an obvious keep, isn't it?
Yeah.
Papa Musar Dembele.
Rodrigo Bentancur, obviously keep. I mean, when the hell are we going to see him again, though?
Yeah.
Jesus, it's such a bad injury. It's such a letdown.
Next Christmas, he'll be on my Christmas list.
Ben Davis.
You want to go first?
I'd actually consider keeping Ben before I'd keep Dyer or Sanchez and even Tanganga, maybe. I think he's the best of the lot that we have stuck around forever. Of the defenders that have stuck around forever, he's probably the one worth most keeping. And under what your argument was saying, like, can we really sell 4 defenders in one window? Even though I want to, he'd be the one. If I was forced to keep one, I'd keep him.
Agreed. I agree with that totally.
Completely disagree. Look, I think he's another one pillar of inconsistency. Another part of the problem in League Cup, FA Cup, Europa Conference League, Europa League games. He's played them all. Don't want him here. Get him gone.
Clement Longley. Well, I guess that's a keep or send back.
It's a send back right now.
Yeah.
I think I've tried to stick up for him at times. I've seen the benefits of Longley. I appreciate that he exposed how bad our defense is. But at the end of the day, we do need better than him. And he does have his moments where he doesn't look great.
Yeah.
Get him for 10, 12 million. Better backup than Dyer Davies. Bring him in.
I think he hasn't filled me with much confidence, man. I like his ball-playing ability, but that's pretty much all he has about him. I think he's way too passive as a defender for me, especially in an Antonio Conte system. If we are going to sign him, I think it's going to be to start. So, not for me. I'd prefer someone much better than him. Much better than him. Yves Bissouma.
Keep.
I think it's a keep, but it is a like I do like if we get a new manager, like we might struggle again with a similar problem of having too many similar-minded midfielders in the team. But I do say keep. He is a real talent. Yeah,
completely agree. And he's also one that can like fit into different systems as well. I think he'd be perfect midfielder for Pochettino. I really do.
With that.
I think he'll come. I think he'll come good. Look, you got to remember the guys come off a back of a bit of a horrible end to the time at Brighton. You know, it's not something that goes away lightly. I think next season you'll see him come good.
All right, well, that is keep, loan or sell. I mean, we're not going to go through the academy goalkeepers because that's just a bit unfair on them. But
sell them both.
Here's a question I want to ask you both is about top four. Obviously, we've made top four a lot over the last 10 years. And the argument is always like, you make top four, it will give us a building block to build for the future. Obviously, we finished top four last year over Arsenal. They're top of the league now. We're fighting to get back into that top four. So the question is like, do you really care about top four anymore? Is it like, do you hold it in high esteem like maybe we used to last year or a couple of years ago?
No, look, me personally, and this is only a personal opinion, I do care about top four. I think when I was growing up, I was watching other teams participate in the Champions League. Yeah. I wanted to be there. I used to be jealous. You know, after training, where you at, Dave? I'm going home to play FIFA. I'm going home to watch Champions League. I was raging. I wanted to kill them, you know? And seeing Spurs there does give me a sense of pride. It does. But why can't winning a League Cup or an FA Cup coexist with that? It doesn't have to be either or. And it's a sad state of affairs at Tottenham that this is the question, either or. For me, it can be both. It can be both. Why can't you have the pride of winning a cup and the pride of being in Europe?
I get we all want to be in the Champions League, and I'm obviously with you. I'm desperate to play in the Champions League and to go far and relive those nights that we had those years ago when we went all the way to the final. But what I'm trying to get at is that come the end of the season, if we're in a top four race and we make it, like will it still like fill you with that enormous sense of pride that like it did last year? Because for me, it's like it's lost it a little bit because of what we've been told that it's going to be a building block, and it never really is, and it doesn't live up to maybe the expectations. I mean, after we made Champions League last year, they were all telling us, the board were telling us, the journalists were telling us, oh, if we make Champions League, it's going to be a game changer. We're going to have windows like we've never seen before, and we signed Longley on loan and Spence that the manager doesn't want to use. I mean, is it that building block that people actually say it is?
It feels less special with Arsenal finishing above us potentially this season, because I think how many years was it that we were finishing above them? Nearly like 6 seasons in a row, I think it was.
Yeah,
even more than that. So that was probably the reason why top four actually felt so good, probably because it was like we're getting top four, the Gooners aren't, and also as well we're finishing above them. So even if they happened to finish top four, we still were finishing above them, had that sort of stick it to them sort of moment. But I don't know if we can exactly boast that anymore. So then the whole feeling, great about top four, it doesn't really feel the same as it did maybe in previous seasons, because the Gooners are finishing above us, and so it's not as special. And like you said, do we really do much with maybe the top four? Do we exactly take advantage of it in going for a cup run or something like that? Not really. So
I do agree that we don't take advantage of it. I don't think we have took enough advantage of it down the years. But let's not forget how horrible the Europa League was, how horrible the Europa Conference League was, how you were struggling to get yourself up for NS Mora. Teams like that. Well, what was that Wacker, that Austrian team we played, Wacker something in the Europa Conference League? Whatever you call them, I mean, like, not really clubs I want to see Tottenham play against, in Europe. I'd rather. And plus, playing in them competitions have a drain on your season, whereas a Champions League doesn't really, I think. But look, where I'm at with it, although this season has been disappointing, although it hasn't brought any cups, hasn't really brought around too much change in hindsight, I would still rather have finished top four and go into Champions League next season. Of course. For me, that should be the lowest you should expect from this football club.
Yeah, I completely understand that, and I'm the same as you. Of course, I'd rather finish in the top four than not finish in the top four. But it just doesn't fill me with the same excitement that maybe it used to fill me with, just because this club have let us down so many times after qualifying for it. And it's like, it's criminal. It's absolutely criminal that Arsenal are fighting for the league title this year when they're the ones that missed out on top 4 and we're the ones that got top 4.
And invested so much after they had been continually finishing outside of top 4.
They told us that
they broke
if
records.
If we don't finish in the top 4, we can't attract Champions League level players. Well, Arsenal didn't finish in the top 4. Yeah, first of all, we got Romero when we were in the Conference
Champions
League.
League level money.
Exactly, and they go out there straight away and get Premier League winners in Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko. So it just makes a mockery of the whole thing, in my opinion. And I feel like what we do is finishing in the top 4. It just enabled us to finish in the top 4 again. Like, it doesn't push us on as a.
It sort of enables the cycle to keep going, doesn't
exactly.
it? Yeah, it does. It does enable the cycle to keep going. But I'm one of them petty fans. You know, if I can't win a trophy, I do want to be in the Champions League next season. I do.
Just like seeing your team on Wednesday nights and Tuesday nights.
Yeah. Look, we're kind of in a situation that it's like, what do you do? Like, do you want to finish? Like, if we finish outside top 4, though, surely it's only going to be worse, right? Caliber of players coming in here probably. I
don't think it would change. Like, I don't think that any player that we signed in the summer don't come here if we finished in 5th. Name me one player who would come here who wouldn't have come here because we finished in 5th last season.
I don't know. Richarlison could have been that one potentially with Chelsea.
I don't think so. I think
I don't know.
yeah, maybe he could have gone to Chelsea. Yeah, he could have gone to Chelsea, but still, like.
You're right. I think you're right.
And I also think it's a bit short-sighted from players, like, not to join someone because they're not in the Champions League for that one specific season. Like, who knows what's going to happen 3 years down their contract or 2 years down their contract. It's silly to think like that. And I think a lot of us do think like that. And I probably maybe used to think like that. But I don't think that's the case of maybe the way footballers look at things. They look at things more as like a project. Kind of thing. Maybe not just this 1 year coming, but the next 2, 3, 4 years coming. Am I going to see Champions League football in these next 2, 3 years?
It's maybe then in that case, it's more the manager that actually is playing the part, right? If they're more thinking about where they're going as a project, not as much the circumstances of what the club is offering, then it's probably more the manager that's convincing them to go there.
Look at Arsenal. Like I said, they brought Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko, not in the Champions League. Haven't played Champions League football for more than 8 years, by the way. They just had 2 8th place finishes and a 5th place finish, but they bought into Arteta's project. That's what it was. They didn't go there because they're going to play direct Champions League football straight away. They brought in there because Arteta made them believe in a project.
It's interesting. It's a myth, I guess, and I saw it in the chat there. You know,
Look,
Spurs America top 4 is a myth, maybe.
I feel someone like Conte. I'd feel like someone like Conte is that sort of guy that could do that, where people would want to come believe in the project, maybe move if we didn't have Champions League. But I do agree with you, Ben. I do think, look, the appeal of finishing inside top 4 is sort of worn off because. I mean, we've done it so long over Arsenal. I mean, you know, it's just routine at this point. But look, the appeal has worn off. I'm not as excited going into European competitions as I once was because I just don't feel like we ever have the players really to compete on a proper level with Europe. I think, look, we got lucky under Pochettino, and the run was incredible lucky. But what do we do, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we still need to try and get in the top 4, and that's the only thing that we got left this season at the end of the day. But it's just like, it makes me feel like if we go out on Wednesday night, like, will there be a lot of Spurs fans just kind of turning off this season, tuning out?
It's already happening. It's all, I can see it everywhere. It's already happening. People have lost complete interest in the Premier League. They're saying what you're saying, Ben. I mean, top 4 isn't a prize. You know, the FA Cup really killed the fans, in my opinion. That FA Cup game really killed it. And this Champions League one would be the nail in the coffin because you got people like me who I probably will you sort of give up, you know, after we're knocked out of the Champions League. It's kind of like, look, I'll still watch all the games. I'll still get behind the team. And I still hope we get top 4, but the excitement's gone,
There'll
isn't
be
it?
a bit of a spark gone out,
The spark's gone, the excitement's gone. And there's going to be plenty of people that still have that shred of hope left like me. You know that when tomorrow, if on Wednesday, if we don't qualify and we do get knocked out, I think you'll see many more turn off their jobs.
Yeah. You feeling the same?
I think Dave's right with the fact that you saw basically, nearly felt like half of the fan base had sort of gone, with that result in the FA Cup. It felt like maybe their whole season was still hinging on us going on a huge cup run. And probably there are plenty of people who feel somewhat similar about the Champions League, where it's like, no matter how far we go, they just want to go on a run. They want the cup competitions to be taken more seriously. And it's something that Spurs, as we know, can't always say that they do. And felt like that FA Cup was just the best opportunity in like a long time, and they just didn't take advantage of it. And is the Champions League a better opportunity? Absolutely not, but it's still a cup competition, and it's a privileged and as well as an esteemed cup competition to be in. And so we do want to see the boys take it seriously, and we want to see them give their absolute all. And if they're not, like they did against Sheffield, it does, let us down, and it does take a lot of soul out of you, a lot of fire out of you. That's for sure. I agree.
And I know the argument over the last few years has been, we need the money from the Champions League, we need the revenue, which we do. But I'll ask you a different question. I'll ask you a question, Ben. With the amount of different revenue streams we're bringing together lately, does that prize money become null and void then, really?
No, because they want to maximise it to the max pretty much, and
they'll see that as a loss if they don't get
exactly.
it. Really.
And I think that they need the Champions League. I mean, that's their main aim of this football club, is to get Champions League revenue every year, maximise the potential. Every time you progress through the Champions League, you get crazy amount of money as well. And that's why they don't care about the domestic competitions as well, because it's minuscule compared to them. I mean, it's minuscule compared to their deals. It's minuscule compared to the Champions League revenue. And that's all they want. And it's such a shame. It's such a shame that there's no ambition further than that, because we've got the best stadium in the world, best facilities in the world, and they just want to just scrape by and get top four every year. It's just such a kick in the teeth to the match, specifically the match-going fans that pay the top whack in the whole of the country.
And you don't count on Spurs to have that emergency money spending like Arsenal did, right? Arsenal finishing outside the Champions League consistently. What did they do? Did they cower away? No, they continued to spend and continued to try to back the manager to the hill. And would Spurs do the same? If Spurs started falling off, it's hard to back us to do so.
Do you think we'll ever see a genuine world-class player delivered under this ownership with the champion for qualifying for Champions League in their time?
I mean, I don't think that we're going to see like No. I don't think we're even going to see like top players in their peak. You're going to see maybe potential like Cuti Romero and Bentancur and Kulusevski, those kind of age with a massive ceiling, that relatively low cost. We're never going to spend, I don't think, over 100 million on a player.
Yeah.
Spending over 100 million, I mean, I never actually would suggest Spurs ever spend over 100 million, but I do think Spurs will never spend the top dollar required to bring in the world-class players, especially when we know that it's needed most in the defense, and that probably then means spend whatever it takes, and we know that's not their motto, spend whatever it takes.
But look, I think that is all we have time for today, but I really did enjoy this stream, guys. We got through a lot today, spoke about a lot of different things, but any big shows happening on the Irish Hotspur this week or next week?
Podcast we're going to be releasing. Dave and I are going to take advantage, everybody, of this sort of live feed that we're able to do. The fact that I can physically punch him and slap both people here is honestly an absolute pleasure. So I'm going to take full advantage of that this week, everybody. So check out podcast. I think Dave and I are going to try our best to put together some sort of kind of match day sort of stuff as well. But yeah, just look out for like different content, but I would say still content for this week.
Yeah, and hopefully, look, if there's anybody around that's going to the AC Milan game, maybe you want to do a quick fan cam after the game. Just get in contact, and we're looking to do some fan cams as well. But look, Ben, thanks for having us, my man. I really appreciate it, brother. No problem, it's good to be back with the We Are Tottenham TV army out there, live in studio. Behave myself.
Big up, guys. Go over to the Irish Hotspur, give them a big fat subscribe, and we'll see you all tomorrow with Sim in the studio previewing the AC Milan game on Wednesday. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.